Um, Great. So as I said, our fall winter 2022 grants kicked off last month, and the three different grants that we're offering are the same types of grants that were offered last cycle, but we have tweaked some of the award amounts a bit. So this cycle, your district can choose one of the following grants to apply for. So um, you can only submit one grant application from one of these categories. First category is events and marketing, and that's $4,000 maximum ask. The second category is district enhancement, and that's a $6,000 maximum ask. And the third is district staffing, and that's a $6,000 maximum ask. So you can ask for anywhere from one to the maximum, depending on what your budget looks like and what your needs are as an organization. So we're just going to go through just a little more in depth of what these specific grant types mean, what types of projects fall into those categories, and yeah, just some things to know if you're interested in applying any of these. So the first one we're going to talk about is events and marketing. So this is pretty familiar to a lot of people. These are the types of projects that districts have been doing historically. These will be for events and marketing projects during the months of November through the end of February. So think holiday activations, events, community events, tree lightings, passport promotions, that sort of thing. But you could also extend it into the new year, do something around Valentine's Day, or something around the Winter Light Festival, which also falls around that time. So this could be your traditional types of events, but also advertising and marketing campaigns, along with website enhancements. If your district's website needs an upgrade, this is the category to choose for that particular project. Social media campaigns, mailers. You don't see too much of that these days. People or districts mailing hard copies, but that's still an effective way to reach an audience. Passport promotions is a popular one, especially around the holiday season, to bolster retail sales. And we added another piece, fundraising campaigns and district merchandise. So if your district is looking for ways to generate revenue, you could use this category as a way to support that, whether you're selling merchandise or have a specific fundraising activity in mind. So a couple examples of what some other districts have been doing in this category. So last year, St. John's applied for their Light Up St. John's program. And this program has a lot of different components and runs. I think it kicks off in November and runs through the end of December. But they wanted to kind of think about, what are some safe ways we can get people together and promote the businesses in the district during the holidays. So they got a community tree donated from a local tree farm and set it up in their public plaza, and then created ornament making kits that the customers could pick up at businesses from around the district. And then they encouraged kids and adults who are young at heart to create ornaments and submit them to be placed on the tree. So that's what you see there at the bottom right-hand corner photo. They also use the funds to work with a local vendor to light the street trees in their district. So during the winter months, it can get pretty dark and gloomy during the holiday season. So street trees are a great way to brighten up the district, encourage foot traffic, pull people down throughout the district if there's a specific part of the district that might be darker than others, and also just get people in the holiday spirit, get them in the spirit to spending money. They also have a ugly sweater bar crawl that they added to this, whereas there's a signature cocktail at bars throughout the district, and people are encouraged to go to the bars, order the cocktail, and take a selfie with the cocktail and their ugly sweater to be entered in to win prizes. So I thought that was a pretty fun thing. Everybody loves an ugly sweater. So it's a great opportunity to get people together and benefit the bars and restaurants during the holidays, in addition to the retail businesses. Okay, another example of a holiday event that district had applied for in the past is Fremont Holiday Fest. So Fremont Holiday Fest is really focused on being super kid friendly. That's what the district's known for. So every year they do the photos with the Clauses, Mr. and Mrs. Claus, you know them all. And they always get a huge line around the block. They had to actually start doing a reservation system for these Santa photos. Santa every year arrives on a fire truck, and it's this grand old thing. So it's really meant to be this real big draw for families with children. They also had some live music. You see there, they got some carolers. They went really all out on the carolers piece, which was great. Encouraged local businesses to decorate their windows. I believe in the past they've done a window decorating contest where businesses will decorate their windows, and then customers can submit their vote for their favorite window, and that business gets a prize or some special promotion or something. Of course, hot cocoa and snacks during those rainy, cold months. You want to keep customers comfortable and happy, so they provided that, and also sold holiday wreaths as a fundraiser to generate some revenue for the district. So a lot of different components there, but a good way to kind of get people in the holiday spirit without having everybody in the same place at the same time. An example of a passport promotion, which we used to see a lot of pre-COVID, is Kenton's Wooden Nickel program. So this is kind of modeled after Multnomah Village's Golden Ticket, but with kind of a Kenton spin on it. And this is a 6-week passport promotion where each week people could take a passport around to different businesses in the district, make a purchase, and for each purchase they made, they would get a wooden nickel. And if they were able to get 5 of these nickels, they could drop the nickels into a bin to be entered to win prizes each week, which were raised each week. So this is a great way to kind of encourage, incentivize people to visit local businesses, usually, through Black Friday weekend, all the way up into the new year. You can see this promotion ran from November 29th all the way to January 9th. So really trying to stretch it out as much as possible during those critical months for retailers. And those are just a couple of examples of events and marketing projects. We really want to encourage you to use your imagination during the grants process. If you have something that you think will benefit the businesses in the district, let us know, and we can work with you to make it an eligible project. We want to be as flexible as possible with all these grant types. Okay, the next type of grant available is district enhancement. So again, these are the $6,000 grants, and they follow the same timeline as the events and marketing grants. So these are for projects happening during the months of November through the end of February. And this is more for physical infrastructure and improving kind of the customer experience in the district. So a lot of districts will do holiday lighting, investing in the lights themselves, and then hiring the contractor to put the lights up is quite a large investment. So this is a good grant to cover that. We also had districts doing outdoor seating winterization. So with the start of the pandemic, a lot of businesses and districts created outdoor seating for the first time in that public right of way using the PBOT Healthy Business Permit Program. But then when the winter months came, the rainy months came, they realized people didn't really want to use that seating unless it was covered and heated. So districts kind of used these funds as a way to create mini grants to businesses that were interested in winterizing their outdoor seating through heaters and equipment and creating tents and whatever might be needed for that sort of thing. Public art, also popular part of this program. You don't see a lot of murals happening in the winter time, but it is possible, along with sculpture, signage, any type of public art, street painting, that sort of thing. Accessibility can be anything from benches to bike racks to investing in crosswalks, creating a safer place for your customers in the district, and a place that's more appealing and accessible for people arriving from different modes of transport. And then livability, which can be district cleanups. It can be investing in trash cans for the district, which is a really expensive piece, especially for the pickup. But that's a piece that you could also invest in during these particular grants. So a couple examples of district enhancement projects. Historic Park Rose used the funds for a restaurant incubator in their district. So they worked with 5 BIPOC-owned businesses to create and expand their outdoor dining. So essentially, the district applied for the grant and then created their own grants for businesses in the district that might be interested in applying for a mini grant to do enhancements to their indoor and outdoor dining areas, purchase equipment, really just bolster economic development in the district. They also use the funds to create promotional videos for 10 businesses in the district. So, really piggybacking on the project by promoting the businesses that were able to benefit from that investment. And then once the summer months came, they hosted a monthly pop-up market with BIPOC vendors that might not have had a storefront space in the district. So if you have any home-based businesses, giving them an opportunity to have a physical presence on the streets by organizing a pop-up market for them. Other projects for district enhancement could include street painting. So you see the photo there on the left. That's the Central East Side Industrial District. Worked with a local school to do a street painting to really liven up that part of the district, but also increase safety for the kids coming and going from school. The middle photo there is from a cleanup on 82nd Avenue. They applied for a grant to do a series of cleanups throughout the district. It's a very large district, so they took the entire summer to focus on different, very targeted areas in the district and partnered with Solve to do cleanups and also used some of the funds to purchase those little trash grabbers and trash cans with wheels on them, and found a place to store everything so they didn't have to rent that equipment or figure out who could they could borrow it from each time they wanted to do a cleanup. And then finally, that photo there on the left, or sorry, on the right, that's from the Foster Area District. They used a district enhancement grant to purchase planters. So these are actually big feed bins, stock tubs, I think they're called. They purchased a bunch of those, drilled some holes in the bottom, and filled them with dirt and plants to really make the district greener, more enjoyable, because some of the areas of the district really didn't have a lot of greenery. So they wanted to make it more enjoyable for people to spend time there, but also green up the district. So that was a great one as well. Other projects in the past have included bike racks. So you can see there on the left, Hillsdale created a bike parking area and a little mural there. The center one, Multnomah Village, invested in those hanging flower baskets, which can be really beautiful in the summertime, but require a lot of watering. So paying someone to do that can get pretty pricey. Not necessarily something you want to do in the wintertime, but think about other ways to liven up the poles in your district, banners, signage, a certain kind of create a sense of place so people know that they're in your district. And then the one there on the right is Mississippi Avenue created a series of these information kiosks that they placed their district walking maps in at strategic places along the street. So the map itself was a project that you could essentially apply for that they had done in a previous year. And then they kind of elevated that by creating a public place to display that particular piece that they worked on. So your district could either apply for the map, or if you already have a map or you have some information that you want to display, you could apply to create a kiosk. The third grant available this round is for staffing. And that again is to pay for either existing staff or new staff, to pay their salary or to pay for costs of hiring them November 22nd through February, or November 2022 through February 2023. So this is for ongoing staff, but it could also be for contractors and event coordinators working specifically during the holidays. Really, you just want to make sure that they're being paid during the months of November through February, because you're going to need to provide pay stubs or proof of payment when you're doing the evaluation of the grant. And the main thing to think of when you're thinking of a staffing grant is, what are the top 3 priorities for the staff are going to be? And they should be things that the board can't do. So not taking minutes, but planning events. Not necessarily running the board meetings, but walking the street and developing relationships with businesses. So being strategic about what that staffer is going to focus on during that 4-month period, I think, is really important. CII districts who already have staff provided by Venture Portland are ineligible for this. So this is only for districts who provide their own staffing. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the requirements on the grants. So in previous years, we required a 1-to-1 match for our grant program. These grants aren't meant to fully fund projects. It's expected that the districts take some responsibility and invest either cash or in-kind in the project itself. But we've lowered the match to be a 0.5-to-1 match. So if you apply for a $4,000 grant, you're expected to invest $2,000 in either cash or in-kind in the project as well. And in-kind could be donated goods and services. It could be volunteer time, anything that kind of qualifies in that realm. But you should be thinking about a project that has, if you're applying for a $4,000 project, has a total expense of around $6,000. But that includes both cash and in-kind, as I said. Your district should also carry general liability insurance. This is kind of a no-brainer. Your district should have this already, but just to cover us, that's required. It also should be completed within the required timeline. So only for projects November through the end of February. If you're looking to apply for something, next May or June, you'll do that in the spring round of grants. So really just focusing on this holiday season here. You must also recognize Venture Portland as a sponsor and as a funder. So that can be a verbal recognition, that can be a shout out on social media, that could be putting our logo on printed materials, or all of the above. It really depends on what you're doing, but Venture Portland needs to be recognized as a funder. You also need to be a current Venture Portland member. So as I said, these grants are only available for member business associations. So if you're unsure if your district is a current member, just reach out to me and let me know. I can let you know if they are, if they aren't. If they aren't, they could potentially become a member. There's still time to do that, but not a whole lot of time. As you'll see, the deadline is approaching quickly. So we want to make sure to get their membership all taken care of before the grant deadline. And Venture Portland's on a calendar year. So if you know that you were a member a couple months ago, you're probably still a member. The membership is good January through December. Okay, let's talk about grant writing. So a lot of you maybe have never written a grant in your life, and that's okay. This is really meant to be as easy as possible for someone who doesn't have grant writing experience. These are lower dollar grants. You're not applying for $100,000 from a foundation. So you don't need a development person. You don't need a professional grant writer. This should be something that really anybody that knows about the district and what the district wants to do should be able to do. And you definitely want to be having conversations with your board during the grant planning process, so everybody's on the same page. You don't want to get someone who's unfamiliar with the activities in the district itself to be writing the grant. You really want someone who is familiar with the district, who has been in communication with the board, and who's going to be involved with the project, because they're going to need to create a project evaluation once the project is all said and done, if it's funded. So when you're writing the grant, the main thing you want to do is assume that the people scoring your application know nothing about your district. So as Venture Portland staff, I do not actually score any of the applications that are submitted. The applications are scored by a grants committee that's made up of other volunteers from business associations, along with some of our partners, including the Regional Arts and Cultural Council and Bricks Need Mortar. So people that are involved in the small business community, but not directly involved with Venture Portland. And that's intentional because you're being scored by your peers, but it also allows us as Venture Portland staff to work directly with you to help you plan your project and craft your application. So the main thing when you're kind of filling out the questions is, give a little background information about where is your district? What is your district known for? What is its built form like? What have you done in the past that you might be known for that could maybe create confidence in your ability to do something even bigger? How are businesses going to benefit in the district? So what's the business mix look like? Have you been talking to the businesses? Why are you doing this project? Is this something that they've requested that they think could be beneficial to them? The main thing to think about when thinking about Venture Portland grants is, project needs to benefit the district as a whole. So it can't just be a single business applying for a project. The business association needs to apply for a project that will positively impact multiple businesses in the district. When you're writing, you want to be as clear as possible. So using facts about your business district to provide context as to why the project is appropriate and why it would be successful. And then make sure to answer each question succinctly and completely. Sometimes questions have multiple parts. You don't want to skip any questions because only complete applications will be accepted. So I will look at the application to make sure that you've answered all the questions and you have all the signatures and all the other pieces filled out before you turn it in. But I cannot offer any assistance after, I guess, on the day of the deadline. So also, you might need to collaborate with some board members to gather all the information needed. So working with the treasurer to figure out the budget piece, does this fit into our annual budget as an organization? Do we have the ability to actually generate the revenue to cover all the costs of this, or do we need to scale it back a bit? Talk with your board members about okay, who's going to volunteer and do this stuff? Do we have enough volunteer capacity to actually do the project? So it might need to take some collaboration, but this is definitely something you want to be working with your board on as you're figuring out the logistics and the specifics of it. You also want to allow yourself time to get quotes for potential expenses if this is a new project. So if you've never done this before, it might be hard to estimate in your head how much it's going to cost. So reach out to the potential vendors that you might be working with to figure out how much they would charge you for something. And then you can use that as a way to put in the items on your budget. So it's just a projected budget. You're not going to be held to spending things exactly as they are listed in your budget. It's just to help the grants committee get an idea of where the money's going to be going, and have you actually thought out all the different expenses for the project and how you're going to generate the match and any additional income that might be needed. You also want to contact the appropriate city bureaus if you're working in the public right of way or something like that, doing a project that might require their approval, reaching out to them to make sure that the project is actually possible in a specific location, or there's no specific requirements about what you want to do that they might have, where there could be something that's restricted that would keep you from achieving the project. You want to figure that out before you apply, because you don't want to be returning those funds. Also, explore partnerships with BIPOC businesses and organizations. So one of the questions on the application is specifically about, how are you going to engage with communities of color and BIPOC-owned businesses and organizations? It's not required, but projects that will do this will be scored higher. So thinking about ways of intentional purchasing, partnering with BIPOC serving organizations to get engagement from different communities and different audiences. Also, you don't want to wait until the last minute. That's one of the biggest things that we see here. We released the grants on the 22nd of June, or what month is it? July, and they're due on the 26th of August. So it's about 5 weeks to write the grants. So you don't want to be waiting to the very last minute. You want to at least submit the application at least several days before the deadline to ensure that nothing is missing. Because if you wait until the day of, you could get into a position where you don't have everything you need, you don't have the time to get it, and we can't accept your application at that point. So you'll miss out on that round of funding. And also, I'm not really super available in those couple of days before the application. So if you want to work with me on crafting the application, getting my feedback, you want to make sure to do that in advance, because my schedule does fill up. Okay, so you've received the funds, you've done the project. There's still one more piece you have to worry about, and that's the grant evaluation. So you want to make sure that someone knows that they are responsible for completing and submitting a grant evaluation within 15 days of the project's completion. A lot of the times, districts will do a project and they'll be so relieved that it's over and done with, they'll completely forget about the evaluation piece. But this is critical to ensure that we are providing the necessary documentation to our funder that the public dollars that we're using for this grant program are being appropriately used. So you'll need to submit receipts and invoices for all the related expenses for the grant project, and fill out just a brief questionnaire about what was done, so we can use that as metrics to report back to the city. So you want to have tracking methods for quantifiable outcomes in place before starting the project. So what are your goals, and how are you going to figure out if you've reached those goals? So quantifiable outcomes is, we want to have X number of people attend, or we want to increase our membership by X percentage. So really having those dialed in before the project starts, and have a way to track all that. You want to also make sure that your treasurer, or whoever is in charge of collecting the receipts and invoices for all cash and in-kind expenses of the project. So when you do go to create the grant evaluation, all those are already ready to go for you, and you don't have to, reach out to vendors that you might have talked to months ago to see if you can get a copy of a receipt or a copy of an invoice. Make sure to, as they come in, put those in a place where they will be easily accessible when you have to submit your grant evaluation. And then also make sure you spend your entire grant. If you don't spend all the money that you received, you will have to return the remainder. It's not just, hey, we came in under budget, so this is great, we'll just put this money into our general fund. That's not okay for grants. You want to make sure that you're being conscious of how much you're asking for, and you're spending everything that you did ask for. So a couple of additional resources to be aware of. There's some organizations that can make your life easier as a grant recipient. So PBOT is a big one. They will help with any project in the right of way. So if you're doing bike racks or a crosswalk or benches or anything that's happening in the street or on the sidewalk, you'll want to work with them, especially their Healthy Business Permit program, if you're doing something around the winterization of outdoor spaces and that sort of thing. Also, the Regional Arts and Cultural Council, along with the Portland Street Art Alliance, they're great resources for looking for referrals for artists to create murals, sculptures, public art, but also for funding. RAC has ongoing grants available for public art as well. If you're thinking about doing district cleanups, Solve and Adopt One Block are great resources. They'll help you get the word out about your cleanup and can even provide you with equipment, and they're really great in just kind of walking you through the process and making sure it's successful. Oregon Metro also has grant opportunities available for community projects. So if you're looking for matching funding, check out Metro's website, see what's available now and if it fits into what you're planning on doing. I think they actually just announced that they're doing grants for cleanups. So working with Metro and Solve and us to create the ultimate mega cleanup might be a fun thing. And then finally, Friends of Trees. If you're thinking about trying to greenify your district a little bit, Friends of Trees can provide street trees and shrubs, walk you through the permitting process, and maybe even help you recruit volunteers for planting. Okay, let's take a look at the timeline. So as I said, the applications were released a couple weeks ago, July 22nd. And then for the past couple of weeks, up until the 19th of August, I will be available for assistance for grant writing. So feel free to, if you have an idea for a project and you're not sure if it fits, reach out to me. We can chat about it, see if it's fits in the spirit of the program, and we can make tweaks to it to based on what other districts have done and what they've learned in the past, and help you make sure that it has maximum impact. I can also review drafts of applications and send you feedback, so feel free to send a draft over to me as well. However, during the week of the deadline, so that's August 22nd to August 25th, I'll only be looking at final drafts. So by that point, your project should be in its final form. All the pieces should be in there. And really, you're just looking for feedback on how can I improve this? Am I missing anything? That sort of thing. Finally, on the 26th of August, so that's Friday, August 26th, applications are due no later than noon. So that's 12 p.m. You must email me all the pieces of the application at that time. So that's the signature page, the narrative, which is 6 questions, and the budget. So that's just a draft budget. So you'll see all that in the application package, which can be found on our website. And then finally, at that point, I'll send all the applications over to our grants committee. They'll review them on their own time and score them, and then meet in September to make their final award decisions. And then once they've made their decision, I will be announcing in October, letting everybody know if they got their grant or not, and then doing a public announcement at that time. So you should plan on receiving a grant contract around the 10th of October. And depending on how quickly you can get that grant contract signed by your president and your treasurer, will determine how quickly we can get a check out to your district. So think, by the end of October, you'll have those funds, which is why we set the timeline from November through February, because you'll be spending the funds during that time. For support, you can download the guidelines and application at ventureportland.org/grants. And then you can also email me with questions about your project and application. My email is jacob@ventureportland.org, and I'm available to help and make the process hopefully as easy as possible for you all. Okay, so I've been talking for a while. I'm going to stop talking and open it up to questions. So let's just open it up to the floor. It looks like Sarah's got a question. Hey.
Hi. How do we get the grant evaluation form? Is that something that's available online where we do the reporting?
No, so when you receive a grant, I will send over the evaluation form along with the grant contract and the award letter and all that stuff.
Okay.
So it's the same. It's basically just a past tense version of the grant application. So not instead of we are going to do this, it's we did this. Instead of these are our goals. Here's how we ended up. Did we meet our goals or not? So it's
Okay.
it's pretty straightforward and it doesn't have to be as in depth as the applications. You're really just kind of reporting on what you did, what the specific deliverables were.
Okay.
So yeah, that's that shouldn't be too difficult if you've got the application.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? What else are people thinking about applying for? If there's a specific project you've got in mind, or if there's a project that you've done in the past that was successful that you want to share, something around the holidays or something that you had done with an enhancement grant, just to kind of get people's gears turning, their brains moving.
I'll talk about. I'll always talk.
Oh, great. Okay, please go.
So in the past in Gateway, they've done a winter, like international winter festival where they donate trees to all the different businesses, and then the businesses decorate them based on their heritage or their business or whatever they want. But this year we're thinking about tweaking it and making it more business and community oriented by getting a bunch of tabletop sized trees to give away to families. And I'm hoping to host the event in the Nick Fish building, which has 52 lower income apartments above. And then I think it would be a really fun way to get them and like the families that live in the building to come down, and we'll do a whole tree display in the window of all the business trees, and then the families can come and get free trees. And I love the idea of the holiday ornament making packets that you were talking about from St. John's.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask them about how they did that.
Yeah, definitely reach out to Tanya on that one. I think that's a great way to drive traffic into the businesses. So the holidays are definitely about community, and I think that's great to help folks that might not be able to do that themselves around the holidays. But also thinking about ways how can businesses get involved. So are they sponsoring the trees, or is there a specific thing that people have to do to go into businesses to get the trees, or maybe there's just coupons attached to the trees that are good for businesses in the district, that sort of thing. So thinking about the community component, but also the business component, where's the overlap that you can get the best of both worlds. Speaking of little trees, another project that was done in the Williams district was they got little trees and put them in each of the businesses, and then on the tree were tags of $5, $10, $20 for different nonprofits. So they were able to kind of raise money for nonprofits. Customers could take a tag off, bring it up to the register, and then the business would put that money aside to be put into a donation for specific nonprofits in the district. So it's a great way to drive traffic to businesses with a charitable component to support some local nonprofits in the district as well. So people always feel better about shopping local if they can also donate to a good cause. So that's another way to bring that charitable component into a shopping promotion.
Jacob?
Yeah. Hey.
Sorry, it's me. Just real quick, because you just mentioned Williams. Was this something that they did recently, or because they haven't mentioned anything like it to me, and I wanted to see. Yeah, when was that? Do you know?
I know they did it in 2019. They may have stopped during the pandemic, but we do have a lot of the things that they used on our shared server. So if you're interested in that, rebooting that and getting that going again, I can show you where that stuff is and kind of show you what they did if you want to tweak it a little bit to make it, work for, the current state of businesses in the district. But they did for several years, and I'm not quite sure when they stopped, but it wasn't too long ago.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Kathy, I mentioned Fremont Holiday Fest. Is there anything you want to share about that as far as anything I didn't talk about, or things that are planned for this year that might be different, or things you had learned from last year? I know you're trying to operate during the pandemic, so everybody had to kind of change the way they were doing things around the holiday times. Is there anything of note that I didn't cover?
No, I think you did a pretty good job. I mean, I think we just had to do a big pivot because of COVID. And you mentioned the reservations for Santa, and we did that on purpose to spread people out. We had like sign up windows where we only let so many people in at a time. So that was a really big pivot. But actually, I think it's a good thing because it's a little more regulated. But I think you pretty much covered it all. I mean, we have the same Mr. and Mrs. Claus every year. I book them the minute they finish that night. I book them for next year. But no, it's a pretty traditional annual event, and everyone looks forward to it. The little kids love it. So
yeah. Always brings a good crowd. So definitely check out that event if you haven't been up there. That's definitely the way to cater to the family element. Yeah, Nancy, you have something you want to share?
Well, 82nd is thinking of staffing for at least the last couple weeks of Around the World in 82 Dishes. But it starts earlier, so I'm thinking maybe if we decide to do that, we could do our upfront match, so that we could get somebody on board a little bit before. I mean, because our event starts October the 23rd. Yeah, October 22nd, and goes till November the 6th, I think. So it's 3 weekends and 2 weeks in between. So maybe that, anyway, that's kind of what we were thinking of. And then since the other group that we need to engage on 82nd Avenue are those folks that work with vehicles. And, we've been trying to think of what kind of thing we could do, maybe a progressive dinner or something at the various car lots, or, trying to think of some way that we can, help them maybe do a group ad. So instead of being just here, not ever talking with each other, relating, so maybe we could get all of the automobile folks to get together and do an ad to let the community know that besides restaurants and places to eat and drink, 82nd also can help you take care of your vehicles. So I don't know. We're just kind of sussing around with that, or
Sure,
fussing around with it. Yeah.
It all depends on what types of businesses you have in your district. You want to make sure that you're benefiting them. And service businesses can be tough to market and promote because they don't have as much of an easy draw as it is to get people into a retail or a restaurant during the holiday season. So
yeah. So if anybody has any ideas, pop them over to me. We'd appreciate it, because it's a unique street, 7 miles long, and yeah, lots of residential, lots of areas that are more consistent with where people are, like at PCC, like, the Division 82nd, the Foster 82nd, where the Cartlandia, where Cartlandia is, where, Multnomah crosses. So it's just kind of an interesting area that to try to help our neighbors know what they can go there for, I guess. So any help be appreciated. Thanks.
No, that's great. Yeah, if anybody has any experience promoting service type businesses or auto centric type businesses, definitely send it her way. they've got a big district there, so it can be tough to, do something that benefits the entire district. So picking a specific industry to focus on, that has maybe expressed that they, need some support is also an option with the marketing and events grant as well. And that could be a social media campaign, it could be a physical mailer, it could be a traditional type ad in, one of the weeklies or newspapers around town. Really just depends on, where your audience is and how you best think you can reach them. Okay, so we're getting close to our time here. We got about 10 minutes, but we don't need to use it if we don't need it. But I want to, make myself available for some preliminary questions if needed. So anything else people are thinking about doing, or just anything that's unclear about the grants programs? This is your first time doing it. Is there something that I didn't cover during the presentation?
Jacob, I had one thing that might be a good thing to address for some of the new people that are writing the grants is the 0.5 to 1 matching process and what that looks like. Do you think you can maybe expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So the grants themselves are really meant to fund a portion of a project, not the whole project. So in order to get business district buy-in and also to kind of help generate revenue for your districts, there is a match required. And that is 0.5 to 1, which means whatever you apply for, you need to come up with 50% of that in addition, either through cash or in-kind contributions. So if you apply for $4,000, your district must match that with $2,000 for a $6,000 project. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be cold hard cash. It could be, if you've got a lot of volunteers working, volunteer time counts towards the match. If you have a restaurant in the district that's going to donate food for an event, the value of that food counts towards the match. If you have a website designer in the district and you're doing a website and they're going to give you 20% discount on their services for the project, that 20% counts towards the match. So really trying to be creative, look at who's in your district, what resources you have available to you, so you can meet that match. A lot of the times you'll want to also think about revenue generation. How can I generate revenue with this project to cover the additional expenses? So that could be, additional sponsorships, grants from other organizations. It can be, funds that are raised through membership dues. So, if the project results in an increase in membership for the business district, those member dues can be used to pay for the additional expenses as well. You can also sell ads if you're doing something where that would be appropriate. So there's different options for revenue generation, but you should definitely keep that in mind as a way to make sure that your district doesn't have to fully pay out of pocket. You might have some funds in your bank account that you've been kind of setting aside for this particular project. So that's fine too if you want to use those for the additional expenses. But really, we're trying to get districts to take ownership of these projects. So that means that they will have to contribute something from their end, whether it's additional cash expenses or in-kind contributions.
Do financial sponsorships count as matches?
You mean if someone pays to have their logo put on materials? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you're able to sell sponsorships, that works too. Okay. Does that kind of clear things up as far as the match is concerned? People kind of struggle with the match, and sometimes I feel like they apply for less than they should because they're worried about meeting that match. But I think there are ways to get creative and do it even if you don't have the cash in the bank. The volunteer time alone for many of these projects will cover the match. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. I would apply for, be realistic, and when you're budgeting, and apply for the full amount that you need. Okay, any other questions before we say goodbye for the day? As I said, I'm available to answer questions. So feel free to reach out to me via email. We can schedule a Zoom call or a phone call to talk through projects. And I'm happy to review draft applications and send you feedback on those. That's a big part of what I do here. So definitely feel free to take advantage of that resource. And then if you haven't gotten my email, I sent an email out when the grants were first released with a link to the applications and guidelines. But if you don't have that handy, ventureportland.org/grants will have the links to all the applications and guidelines. So that'll be a PDF or a document, a Word document, whatever format you want to use, but make sure you're using the application when you're filling it out. So, use that Word document and work from that, just so it keeps all the questions in order. Make sure you're answering all the questions. The wording is the same. We try to keep these as consistent as possible for the grants committee, so they can easily compare all the different applications with one another. As far as signatures are concerned, you can use the PDF and get the PDF signatures. You can get wet ink signatures. You can use DocuSign, whatever's easiest for your district, but you will have to get the final application signed by your president and treasurer. So make sure you make time for that. If people are away on vacation this month, you might want to get those signatures sooner rather than later. There have been situations where districts have waited until the week of to get those signatures, and then it turns out our president's camping in the woods and we can't get a hold of them. What do we do? So you don't want to be caught in that situation, because without the signatures, the application's incomplete and we can't accept it. Okay, so unless there's anything else, I'm gonna go ahead and say goodbye for the day, but I thank you all for being here. I really encourage you to apply for this round of funding and really get creative with your projects, talk to your boards, find out what the businesses in your district need, and let's make this holiday season spectacular for all. I know it's crazy to think about the holidays when it's August, but they'll be here before you know it. Okay, good to see y'all. Have a great rest of your day.